smart, but go ahead.
Let's try. Okay, so basically, it's about free will and good and evil concepts.
Free will and what again?
Free will and good and evil concepts.
Oh yeah. That's a very good question. Yeah, it's going to be. I don't know if I can answer in 2 minutes, but let's see what the gist of your question is. I may have to do a series on it, but go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, if God knows everything, why did He create Satan? Why did He create Satan as evil? But at the same time, you might say that in order to have a free will, you need both good and evil. But God Himself is good, and He has free will, and He's not evil.
No, God is not. Who said He had free will?
Oh, really?
No. God, the Bible says, God, because He has a nature that's unchangeable, He cannot do everything, and He cannot be evil, and He cannot sin. Where'd you get He got free will?
I mean, I'm Muslim, but I think in Christianity,
God cannot do everything.
Can I continue?
No, but you're saying Christianity, God cannot do everything, so don't misrepresent Christianity. That's not what we believe.
Okay, no, it's because I thought if God can create the universe and the black holes and space and everything, He surely has free will. That's my thoughts.
What is that? What does that got to do with free will? That God, because He's Almighty, can create a creation, but that doesn't mean that means He's free to oppose His nature. You're confusing two issues. If He has the ability to create, then yeah, He can choose to exercise that ability. But you're defining free will, meaning that He has the power to act contrarily to His nature, to go against His nature. No, the Bible doesn't say that's what free will is in reference to God. Because you see how you defined it, now you change the definition. You went to that God has the freedom to create or not to create. Yes, that's true. But you're defining it in terms of good and evil. God does not have the freedom to do evil. See, that's where you're misdefining the term free will. So you use two different definitions of free will and confused yourself. Are you asking me, is God free to act upon His attributes, such as the attribute of power, and then exercise that power to create or choose not to create? Yeah, He's free to do that. But He's not free to go against His nature. You confuse two issues. So which issue you want me to address?
Yeah, things got complicated really quick.
Yes, that's what I said.
I thought that the Christian God has.
Maybe the Muslim God can, not the Christian God, because your God Allah, you don't even know what His nature is. That's why He can be called Al-Mutakabbir, the arrogant, proud one, Khairul Makirin, the best of all deceivers, because you have no idea what His nature is. Whereas in the God of the Bible, Hebrews 6, 17, 18, it says, it's impossible for Him to lie. It's not possible. You can't do it. Or in 2 Timothy 2:13 says, He cannot deny Himself. Not possible, cannot. James 1:13, He cannot be tempted. So our God cannot just do everything. Your God, no one knows about Him. He can do what He wants, it seems. He can be a liar. He can be proud. But we're not told He can be humble. That's the problem with you, not with me.
Okay, so I guess the other question is why did if God knows everything, let's kind of rephrase it. If God knows everything, He would have known that Satan would rebel, right? Mm-hmm. Like before time and everything. Why would He allow it?
Yeah, that's a question that has plagued theologians and philosophers for centuries, and everyone comes up with a way of trying to articulate it. So whatever I tell you is just one opinion among many, because we know, number one, first of all, let's start with facts. When I say facts, that we believe are facts. If an atheist doesn't even believe in God. Fact, God exists. Fact, He created the universe. Fact, in this universe, there are spirit creatures and also human beings. Fact, spirit creatures and human beings have rebelled and caused great havoc, disaster, chaos, and misery and pain. Okay, now, then the question comes down to, all right, God created these spirit beings and these human beings and even animals who inflict harm. Even animals, unfortunately, inflict harm on one another, even insects and so on. Did God know that? Well, if He's all-knowing, then surely He knows that. But now the question is, this is now where it's going to get deep. And don't ascribe any view to me. I'm just telling you the range of options where people have wrestled with this question and looked to the Bible. If you're a Christian, you look to the Bible. If you're a Muslim, you look to the Quran and Sunnah. And the Quran and Sunnah is already settled for you. If you're a Sunni, you know the answer to this, right?
No, not really. I'm open to anything at this point. So.
Well, if you go to Sunni Islam, the Quran and Sunnah, not Shia, they have different traditions. Allah predestined all the evil and misery. It was His will, His qadr. And qadar does not mean he knew you're going to do it. No. Muhammad said that the destiny of a child, whether he was created for paradise or hell, will overtake him at some point in his life, because Allah has already created the person for hell or for Jannah. So he was a very hyper, what we call fatalist, a hyper Calvinist. So let's put that aside. Coming to scripture, there are people who say God did know that when he created Satan and human beings, that they would freely rebel, but he still wanted a world in which these creatures would exist, and they would rebel because in spite of their rebellion, the world he created would bring about the greatest number of human beings who would choose to believe in him and enjoy him and reign with him. That's one question, because he wanted a world to exist of creatures who could make choices so they could experience his love and dwell in his presence. And he knew that this is the best and most ideal world to create, to get the most amount of people to freely believe in him and be saved. That's one view.
Possibility, yeah.
Yes. The other view, and there are Christians who believe this, believe it or not. There are Christians who believe this. So take it up with them. I'm just telling you. And they will quote verses, because the Bible's written in such a way, whatever you want to find, you'll find there. Just like a Muslim will find whatever he wants in the Quran and the Sunnah. That's how these books are written.
You can intercept it any way you want, right?
Yes. And there's one view that says this. There's one view that says this. It says that God knows all possibilities and all actualities. He knows everything that can possibly take place. But the future doesn't exist in reality. And because it doesn't exist in reality, God knows everything that can possibly happen in the future, but what actually takes place, he does not know until it occurs. This is called open theism. That's a view among Christians. That's another view. That's how they try to reconcile. Why would God create a world in which you have so much fallenness and evil? They'll say, because God is an infinite mind, and he knows every possible thing a creature can do, but until the creature does it, it's not a reality. So there's no way for him to know it, because it doesn't exist. Because in this view, God didn't create the future. God created creation and lets the future unfold, and he oversees what will take place, and he's sustaining the future as it takes place, but he's not the one who ordained the future to take place and created it. That's one view. That's open theism. Now, many people don't like that view. They reject it. I understand.
Yeah.
Those are the two views. But then you have the view that's similar to Sunni Islam. It's the Calvinist view, that God has created all reality, present, past, and future time. And he's created everything that takes place in creation. So he knows the future because he's already decreed what the future will be like. So you make choices, but those choices were already ordained by God for you to make. And then they'll tell you, he doesn't make you do it, you do it, but he decreed that you'll do it, so that at the end of the day, it becomes a mystery, a paradox.
Which one do you believe in? I'm just curious.
I don't believe that God has created you to do evil. I would actually go with the first view, that God created the world, which he knows that creatures would sin. But nonetheless, this was the optimum, ideal world for him to create, because this is the world that will get the most amount of people to be saved. So he didn't create Satan and decreed Satan would rebel. He knew he'd rebel, but created him nonetheless, because this is the only world of all the worlds he could create that would bring about the most number of creatures turning to him to be saved. Any other world would bring a less amount of people for salvation.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but
so God could have chosen not to create, but obviously he wanted to create. So now we have to deal with the fact that he did create, because he didn't have to create, but he wanted to create.
Because we have, a lot of planets, a lot of galaxies. If it's just about sheer numbers, he could have done it in a different way. If
Why?
It's just
How do you
about
know?
Numbers.
Now, to make that arrogant claim means that you have the mind of God, and no, he could have. How do you know that?
I don't know, of course, but I'm saying maybe.
But
maybe,
how would you know
right?
it's a maybe? Do you have his mind to know all possible worlds and all possible realities and all possible creations, and which creation is most ideal? That's an arrogant statement. Sounds like you think you're God.
I'm sure he does, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying if this is the world he created, that means this is the best world.
Okay.
Because any other world would not bring about the most number of people who would get saved. So you're actually contradicting the point I'm making. You're saying, no, he could have created a better world. How do you know that?
No, I'm saying we don't know anything. I'm just saying
that's why that's my point. So you may not like any of the options, but you're stuck with having to wrestle with the fact you exist, I exist, the world exists, evil exists. So either there is no God and this was just an explosion, and the universe expanded in such a way without any intelligent mind guiding it that created all these complex life forms, so that to talk about evil is silly because there's no such thing as evil. It's only chemical reactions. That's atheism. Or you're a theist that believes there is a creator God and he's responsible for his creation. So now we have to wrestle why this creation and not another.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it can be a mixture of both, you know, like of the chemicals and the evil and good, you know?
Yeah, but if we believe God created the world initially good, no defects, that means these chemical reactions are not working optimally because our minds, our brains, our nerves have been damaged because of the evil brought into the world by Satan and humanity. That's the biblical teaching, that evil, rebellion has brought damage to the world, because when God created it, he created it good. So the way the brain of Adam functioned before he rebelled and was punished didn't function the way our brains are doing so now.